China has taken over the world. In case you missed it, during the military parade that marked the end of the SCO summit, the Chinese leader Xi Jinping, in almost explicit terms, announced the establishment of a new world system, with China as a natural leader of that system.
To this end, I wish to propose the Global Governance Initiative. It follows my previous global initiatives, namely Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, and Global Civilization Initiative. And today, I propose to you the Global Governance Initiative. I look forward to working with all countries for a more just and equitable global governance system, and advancing toward a community with a shared future for humanity. First, we should adhere to sovereign equality. We should maintain that all countries, regardless of size, strength, and wealth, are equal participants, decision makers, and beneficiaries in global governance.
See, the fundamental problem that has faced the oppressed, and indeed all anti-imperialist movements, was the futility of trying to use the tools of an oppressive system to either overthrow that system or to find room within that system to exist. This obviously is a foolhardy endeavor, almost akin to trying to play Monopoly with someone who can go into the next room and print more Monopoly money. And so this is the dilemma that has plagued anti-imperialists in the battle against the hegemonic system, a system that has superimposed itself across all of reality and giving you the very stencils by which you perceive that material reality. China, however, has understood this problem, and rather than trying to fight with imperialists for room at their table, at the end of World War II, they set out to build an alternative system, a parallel system that mirrors but operates independently of the Western-dominated and Western-controlled systems. The importance of this cannot be overstated, because in the material reality of Western colonial aggression, rather than engaging with these tricksters and bad faith actors in a nuclear confrontation and risking a mutually assured destruction, you can basically ignore them and move your coalition of like-minded states to the alternate system that you have built, which is impervious to sanctions and outside of their control. China has built such a system. China has built a new economic trading bloc in BRICS. They have built trading routes in the Belt and Road Initiative to circumvent Western naval dominance and to bring, in their own self-interest, development to the global south. They have built a security alliance in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. They have built a new international finance system, the new development bank, to rival the World Bank and the IMF. They have built several commodities trading and exchange systems and a new gold exchange platform. They have enabled a system of trading within nation states in their own currencies and might eventually launch a new international trading currency using digital currencies. It has built its own space station. They have built their own global navigation system. They are building a separate and independent internet, and they already have their own search engines and other digital services. They have built their own satellite internet system akin to Starlink. They have built their own AI systems and made part of it open source. They have built their own desktop and mobile operating systems to rival those of Microsoft, Apple, and Google. They have democratized and made affordable the technology around producing advanced goods such as electric cars, solar panels, robotics, and phones. They have announced plans to build alternate medical systems that account for traditional remedies, because we all know that Western science is fake science that seeks profit rather than the human well-being that will result from actually curing diseases. And they even have plans to have a new version of the Olympics. And they have achieved all of this by first safeguarding their recovery and development by first getting nukes. And now they defend that rise and that development by building the most technologically advanced army of the 21st century, an empire-destroying army with state-of-the-art technology and 2 million standing troops. But to achieve all this, China has had to show an extreme and incredible restraint, not because they are cowards, but because they understand that all empires eventually come to an end. That eventually a destructive system will run out of people to exploit, and when that happens, the system will eventually cannibalize itself. Why fight your enemy when you can allow them destroy themselves? And so they have trod this path faithfully, careful to avoid a confrontation that will disrupt their progress, exhibiting a thoughtful, avoidant, and non-confrontational diplomacy as they essentially waited for the Western Empire to collapse on itself. Europe is finished. Their land and climate leave little room in the year for any sort of substantial agricultural productivity. Comparatively with the Global South, they are resource deficient, and stabilizing systems across the Global South will mean nation-states will be increasingly difficult to exploit. Their population has collapsed, and if there's any sort of stabilizing force on the planet that reduces conflict and brings development, people will no longer migrate in the numbers that they need as the workers and consumers and taxpayers continue their Ponzi capitalist systems. Their economies, from oligarch exploitation, have racked up massive debt, and are now about to enter a sustained period of depression. The people from extreme exploitation and immigration have rightly lost all sense of patriotism and will no longer fight their wars. And all of their talent has mostly come from the Global South. Europe is finished. People ask why Europe is all in with America and why they vassalize themselves to a young 200-year-old state. And the truth is that for all the reasons I mentioned above, Europe could never have and cannot survive without imperialism. In a world where nations have true autonomy, France does not make enough wines, planes, or Chanel handbags to be the seventh largest economy in the world. Europe has suckled on the poison teeth of exploitation, and the inevitable terminal decline has set in. But what does this mean for us as Africans? What it means is that the prison doors are open. It now remains for Africans to decide if they want to be free. The problem we've always had was that these Western systems were hegemonic, and we were trapped within that system. There were no alternatives to any of these Western systems. This is no longer the case. But make no mistake about it, China is not our savior. China's only interest is the preservation of the Chinese people and the Chinese culture. However, as an advanced economy with advanced goods to trade, China is invested in seeing the development of much of the Global South because it cannot sell you electric cars when you have no electricity. It cannot deny you access to electricity to prevent your industrialization when it has solar panels and nuclear technology to sell. China's interest in the development of much of the Global South is not altruistic. It is a self-interest. They want your minerals and they want to sell you advanced goods. But where they differ from the Western system is that they will not ask you to devalue your currency or to enact austerity to cripple your economy. They are not interested in regime change, in weaponizing social issues, or in funding political oppositions and commissioning terrorists to destabilize your countries. China is a 5,000-year civilization that has realized that belligerent imperialism always ends in civilizational ruin, and that much more is achieved through peace and diplomacy. It is now left for African nations to negotiate fair trade deals and exchanges without the threat of the CIA looming above them. My people have a saying: do not be the fly that follows the corpse into the grave. The Western hegemonic system is dead. I still believe Western imperialism will make a play at war. They are trying to extend or freeze the conflict in Ukraine to give Europe a chance to rearm and join in about a year or two, while opening new fronts of conflict in countries that border Russia. And America is focused on using its Asian proxies to initiate a conflict with China in a few years. But it is a conflict they cannot win. And when they realize the futility of this play, America is probably going to attempt to become a regional hegemonic power by terrorizing the Americas, just like it is doing in Venezuela and Mexico, and by exploiting its allies in Europe and what other countries decide to remain vassalized in Africa. And when the crash comes, and it is going to come, when it hits the European economies, the EU and NATO projects will come to an end as nation states seek the autonomy that will allow them to join or align with the new centers of growth and development independently of the imperialist centers of Brussels and Washington. I see the emergence of two types of African states: the one whose elites will prefer to continue the exploitation of their people and will align with the West because the West will give them cover to do so, and the nation states who will be forced into good governance in their alignment with China, because China is not just writing checks, it is building infrastructure, and that little is enough for any African state to thrive, for we are resourceful people. But even the first scenario will be difficult to sustain, because if regional countries are achieving rapid peace, stability, and development, it will become increasingly difficult for any nation state within Africa to continue to commit to the old systems of planned and coordinated underdevelopment. There is nothing to fear anymore from the Europeans. There is the making of a just and fair world out there. We do not want to receive the bite of a dying cobra. We do not want to be the fly that follows the corpse into the grave. We have been handed an incredible opportunity to achieve as much development, justice, freedom, and peace that we've not had for at least the last 500 years. We can either confront our leaders and force them to go along with a movement of peace and development that will finally restore the pride and dignity of the black race and eventually rise to our full potential and birthright, or we can allow ourselves to continue being exploited by the West. The choice is ours. We've been handed the most incredible and unlikely layup in recent history. It is up to us to decide what to do with it. Like Kanye West says, at this point in the world's history, slavery is going to be a choice.
The Chinese nation is a great people who fear no tyranny and strive for self-reliance. The great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation is unstoppable. The noble cause of human peace and development will surely triumph.